South Korea and the U.S. wrapped up their additional tariff negotiations ahead of the APEC leaders meeting, seeing some progress but leaving some pending issues. President Lee Jae-myung also says that there'll be a rational result that can be acceptable to all. And President Lee says he would welcome and support a meeting between the leaders of North Korea and the U.S. if the two met in time for the APEC meeting next week. The Bank of Korea left its key interest rate as it is at 2.5% in its efforts to maintain financial stability amid an overheated housing market and a weakening Korean won. The final round of 2-hour tariff talks between Seoul and Washington over a multi-billion-dollar investment deal produced some progress. But a South Korean official says a few sticking points remain. Our Moon Hae-ryun leads us tonight.
South Korea's Presidential Chief of Staff for Policy Kim Yong-bum and Industry Minister Kim Jong-wan met with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in Washington for about 2 hours on Wednesday for the second round of in-person negotiations in less than a week. The discussions focused on the $350 billion investment package, a key part of the broader trade framework between the two countries. After the meeting, Policy Chief Kim said some progress was made, but stressed that negotiations are still ongoing.
There has been some progress. If we can meet more frequently before APEC, both sides will better understand each other's positions. But as always, in negotiations, nothing is over until it's truly over.
The talks are believed to have centered on the cash ratio and funding duration of the investment plan. The policy chief said that any agreement must remain within what South Korea can afford financially, without causing instability in the foreign exchange market, while the industry minister said that meeting face-to-face was crucial to resolving the few remaining issues.
There are still pending issues. While we've discussed them online, we thought meeting in person would be far more effective, so we decided to come.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chol, who has been negotiating with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, told Bloomberg TV that the focus is on structuring the $350 billion investment rather than on establishing a currency swap. He added that Seoul is working towards a balanced mix of direct investment, loans and guarantees, noting that a full upfront payment could shock the Korean foreign exchange market. Koo also emphasized that resolving the tariff gap, currently 25% for Korean vehicles versus 15% for Japanese ones, would help reduce uncertainty and stabilize the Korean won. With the South Korea-US summit expected to take place during the APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju at the end of the month, Wednesday's talks likely mark the final push as both sides work to seal a deal. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung has also acknowledged the differences in opinion in the ongoing trade talks. But he also stressed his belief that the two sides can reach an agreement that is rational and acceptable. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Ahead of a high-stakes meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump next week and amid complicated trade talks, President Lee Jae-myung says he believes in the rationality of the United States when it comes to the trade issue. In an interview with CNN a week before the APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju, Lee said it'll take a lot of time and effort, but he believes a rational agreement will be reached in the end. The allies are currently struggling to narrow key differences, including Trump's demand that Seoul makes a $350 billion investment upfront in return for lowered tariffs. When asked about that such demand is tantamount to a mafia shakedown and extortion on America's allies, the South Korean leader added he expects a rational result because the two countries are in an alliance and have common sense and rationality. On a possible meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in time for the APEC meeting, President Lee said he would welcome it if they met and supports their talks, though he sees little chance of it happening next week. When asked what his message would be to North Korea's Kim, Lee said meeting his counterpart would be the first step in resolving many issues. He earlier suggested that Trump could take on the role of a peacemaker and him as a pacemaker when they met at the White House in August as part of efforts to lower tensions on the peninsula. In 2019, Kim Jong-un and Trump had a surprise meeting at the DMZ 4 months after their talks in Hanoi fell apart. The upcoming gathering of 21 APEC member economies comes at a time of deep division and growing global uncertainties, with a focus on key summit diplomacy and America's sweeping tariff campaign on the world. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Also on the local front, Deputy Prime Minister Koo Yoon-chul said he'll do his best to ensure the outcomes of the 3-day APEC Finance and Structural Reform Ministers meeting translate into tangible achievements for the upcoming APEC leaders meeting next week. Koo said this during a related press briefing on Thursday in Incheon. He added that the agreement reached during the meeting carries even a greater significance, as it was unanimously endorsed by all 21 APEC members. Now, on the same day, Prime Minister Kim Min-seok carried out a final on-site inspection ahead of next week's APEC event. During his visit to major facilities in Gyeongju, he urged officials to do their utmost to ensure the event's success. And speaking of next week's APEC leaders meeting, it's not just a gathering of global leaders that's making headlines. The APEC CEO Summit is garnering much attention amid news that the head of NVIDIA will be attending the event. Our Pyongyang has more.
AI revolutionary Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, is returning to Korea for the first time in 15 years. Huang will attend the APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju later this month, after years of skipping Seoul on his Asian tours. He's scheduled to deliver a press conference and keynote speech on the final day of the event. He's also expected to meet SK Group Chairman Itaewon and Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong, as the two South Korean chip giants supply high-bandwidth memory chips, or HBM, to NVIDIA.
One company is ordering nearly half of the world's total memory chips, and Korea's chip makers are joining forces to meet that demand.
I'm confident that this collaboration will allow Korea to take a central role in leading the global AI paradigm and opening new frontiers for the future.
Their discussions will likely center on next-generation semiconductor technology, as well as ways to strengthen cooperation in AI development. There's even speculation that Huang could tour chip production lines during his stay. Top executives from global tech giants, including Google, Meta, and Microsoft, are also expected to attend. SoftBank's Masayoshi Son and OpenAI's Sam Altman are reportedly considering joining as well. If their visits materialize, analysts say it could give further momentum to the so-called Stargate project, a U.S.-led initiative to build next-generation AI data centers worldwide. Held under the theme Bridge Business Beyond, this year's APEC leaders meeting aims to connect world leaders and global CEOs through one-on-one meetings to explore new investment and partnership opportunities. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
In a widely expected move, South Korea's central bank decided to keep its benchmark interest rate at 2.5% for the third session in a row. A red-hot housing market and a weakening currency held back any move by the bank for a rate cut. Our economic correspondent Park Jun-han has this report.
The Bank of Korea announced a third rate freeze of the country's base interest rate at 2.5% on Thursday, after cutting the rate by 25 basis points in May and holding it steady in July and August. The decision was widely expected, as Central Bank Governor Lee Chang-yong said during a National Assembly audit on Monday that he intends to prevent additional liquidity from overheating the property market.
While inflation remains stable, uncertainties in growth persist. With ongoing improvements in consumption and exports, and given the need to monitor the housing market, household debt, and exchange rate volatility, we decided to keep the interest rate unchanged.
A professor of economics also pointed to the volatile foreign exchange market as one of the main reasons why the BOK is unable to make a preemptive rate cut. While the dollar index remains below 100, the $1 exchange rate has been hovering around 1,430 Korean won per US dollar as of October, which is considered high compared to historical data.
The Korean won has become volatile recently, partly due to the uncertainty over trade policy, especially the questions surrounding the $350 billion investment agreement between Korea and the U.S. In this environment, the bank wanted to avoid adding further instability to the currency market.
Following the bank's move, the interest rate gap between South Korea and the United States remains in the 1.5 to 1.75 percentage point range. Eyes are now on whether the central bank will lower the country's interest rate in November. With internal and external factors such as high housing prices, a volatile foreign exchange market, and the upcoming U.S. interest rate decision in October, the BOK said the agency will closely monitor the market and act accordingly. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung says strengthening South Korea's self-defense capabilities is key to maintaining peace on the peninsula and promoting sustainable economic growth. At a weekly meeting with his aides on this Thursday, the president called for substantial investments in the defense industry and making note of the rising global demand. Remarks to this end follow his office's designation of this week as Defense Week. President Lee also urged the relevant ministries to exert all efforts in preparation for next week's APEC leaders meeting. He stressed that the event should serve as an opportunity for the international community to address shared challenges such as AI transformation and demographic shifts. On Thursday, North Korea confirmed its ballistic missile launches the day before, claiming it had tested new hypersonic projectiles. Lee Seung-ja has the details.
North Korea announced Thursday that it successfully test-fired 2 hypersonic projectiles, describing them as part of a new and important weapons system. According to the Korean Central News Agency, the 2 projectiles were launched the day before from Yeokpo District in Pyongyang toward the northeast and hit their intended target on the Gwaesang Peak tableland in Arirang County, North Hamgyong Province. The KCNA said the test was part of the country's broader defense capability development program, designed to strengthen the sustainability and effectiveness of what Pyongyang calls its strategic deterrence against potential enemies. While top military officials were at the test site to observe, the regime's leader, Kim Jong-un, was not. This marks the first ballistic missile test by North Korea in 167 days since the regime fired multiple short-range missiles, including the Hwasong-11 on May 8th. It also comes just days before the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Gyeongju, where leaders from South Korea, the United States, and China are expected to discuss the North's growing missile threats. In response, the United States condemned the launches, calling them unlawful and destabilizing. A spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Defense said Washington is closely consulting with South Korea, Japan, and regional allies following the test, reaffirming America's ironclad security commitment to its partners in Northeast Asia. The spokesperson added that the U.S. strongly urges Pyongyang to refrain from further provocations. In Europe, EU Foreign Affairs spokesperson Anita Hipper also condemned the missile tests on social media, calling them a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. She stated that North Korea must cease all unlawful actions that threaten peace and security, return to diplomacy, and fulfill its international obligations. The latest test underscores heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula as Pyongyang seeks to demonstrate its military capabilities ahead of key international discussions. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he canceled a planned summit with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, pointing out a lack of progress in diplomatic efforts and a sense that the timing was off as reasons. Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Unexpected summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin has been canceled. During his meeting with the NATO Secretary General in the Oval Office on Wednesday, Trump told reporters that it just didn't feel right.
We canceled the meeting with President Putin. It didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like we were going to get to the place we have to get, so I canceled it. But we'll do it in the future.
Trump instead added that he has a long meeting scheduled with Chinese leader Xi Jinping and that he expects to reach a trade agreement with him where he could raise concerns about China's purchases of Russian oil. His words come in line with Washington having imposed the first Ukraine-related sanctions on Russia since the start of his second term. The sanctions announced on Wednesday target Russia's two largest oil giants, Lukoil and Rosneft. The U.S. Treasury Department said it is prepared to take further action and urged Moscow to agree to an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday in Oslo that he backs Trump's proposal for Ukraine and Russia to stop at the current front lines was a good compromise.
After our conversation, you saw messages, public messages from Trump. He proposed stay where we stay and begin conversation. I think that was good compromise, but I'm not sure that Putin will support it, and I said it to President.
Given that this comes amid Putin demanding that Trump give him the entire Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine, The Guardian viewed Trump's proposal as a modest win for Zelensky, though he keeps wavering on key aspects of the war. According to the Wall Street Journal on Wednesday, with disappointment leveled at Putin for not making significant progress in discussing a ceasefire, Trump may have dropped the limitations on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles. In fact, Ukraine did use a British Storm Shadow cruise missile to strike Russia, which originally needed approval from the U.S. Secretary of Defense. The authority to approve such attacks was returned to the U.S. military's European command, and though Trump claimed that this was fake news, many say the reversal could be because talks with Putin are not making progress. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The South Korean government on Thursday announced the results of a joint audit into the deadly 2022 Itaewon truck crash. Conducted by a special task force made up of the Office for Government Policy Coordination, the Interior Ministry, and the Korean National Police Agency since July. The audit found that no security personnel were deployed to the area on the day of the accident, as police resources have been concentrated near the Yongsan Presidential Office. It also revealed that Yongsan-gu district officials on duty that night did not take any immediate action, despite being informed of the large crowds. The task force will hold 62 public officials accountable for misconduct identified during the probe. The audit was launched following requests from the victims' families, as the 3-year deadline for disciplinary action approaches next week. Amidst the rapidly changing global supply chains, a competition is intensifying to secure technological leadership, with AI seemingly dominating this year's tech trends. For more on this, we have our economics correspondent Moon Ji-young here in the studio. Welcome, Ji-young.
Good evening, Dami.
So, Ji-young, South Korea's biggest annual electronics show opened with a spotlight on cutting-edge AI. Walk us through the major innovations and trends showcased at the event this year.
Sure. Indeed, a diverse range of AI technologies was showcased at the Korea Electronics Show, which kicked off in Seoul on Tuesday. This year's event demonstrated how artificial intelligence, robotics, and mobility are converging to shape our future. Industry leaders like Samsung Electronics unveiled optimized AI solutions, seamlessly integrating into daily life across mobile devices, displays, and home appliances, notably including personalized movable screens and transparent micro-LED technology. Another industry leader, LG Electronics, introduced its affectionate intelligence, showcasing how AI transforms vehicles from mere transportation into mobile offices or pop-up stores through natural conversations, alongside its cutting-edge immersive micro-LED displays.
So it seems AI was the main tech driving conversation across all recent industry events. Now, focusing on the semiconductor exhibition, what were the key takeaways?
So if KES showed us AI's front-facing applications, the semiconductor exhibition revealed its intricate brain power. Those two major showcases highlight the essential synergy between AI advancements and the foundational semiconductor technology that powers them. Major players like Samsung Electronics showcased a physical HBM4, their 6th-generation high-bandwidth memory chip, confirming rapid preparations for mass production. They also highlighted their GDDR7 graphics DRAM, currently supplied in significant volumes to NVIDIA, alongside a broader portfolio, including advanced system semiconductors and foundry services, all optimized for AI. Meanwhile, SK hynix prominently featured its own HBM4, emphasizing its competitive advantage in having supplied samples to key customers such as NVIDIA as early as March. They also introduced innovative memory module solutions tailored for data centers and AI servers, crucial for handling the massive data demands of AI, and advanced storage solutions for cloud infrastructure. These advancements from both giants solidify Korea's indispensable role in global AI innovation, providing the foundational chips necessary for our intelligent future.
So the indispensable synergy between AI and a foundational chip technology is clearly driving a massive market shift. And then the question is, how exactly is the AI surge influencing semiconductor market?
So that's a very crucial point. The surge in AI data center investments has propelled the memory semiconductor market into a full-blown suppliers market. Domestic semiconductor firms are spanning both new growth engines like HBM and traditional DRAM and NAND, driven by expanding AI markets requiring robust memory infrastructure. Generic DRAM and NAND flash prices are indeed skyrocketing. According to DRAM Exchange, contract prices of both DRAM and NAND flash both surged by more than 16% month-on-month in September. This leaves inventories at historic lows due to growing demand. With Samsung and SK hynix dominating about 70% of the global DRAM market, these Korean giants hold a commanding position in this new market landscape.
The semiconductor industry itself is in great shape, so we expect strong performances to continue into the fourth quarter. The significant rise in DRAM prices appears to be playing a major role.
The demand isn't just for AI-specific HBM, but also for general server and mobile memory, severely tightening the global supply chain. This marks the first time in the AI era that the memory semiconductor market has shifted from buyer-driven to supplier-driven. Unlike the predictable B2C demand of past smartphone and PC markets, AI data centers present explosive, unpredictable B2B demand, prompting memory makers to prioritize profitability over market share by adjusting supply. Crucially, increasing collaboration with major U.S. big tech companies, such as the recent partnership between Samsung and SK hynix with OpenAI for massive AI infrastructure investments, is significantly expanding the market and promises an even more vibrant future for AI semiconductors.
All right, Jiyoung, thank you so much for the comprehensive coverage tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dami.
It's Sanggang on the traditional calendar, which means the season of frost falling. However, the early winter cold has receded and the weather is rather mild. The daytime temperature rose to around 19 degrees Celsius in Seoul, which was 2 degrees higher than the usual temperature at this time of year. Meanwhile, rain has been still falling on and off along the east coast as rain clouds are covering parts of Gangwon-do province and Gyeongsangbuk-do province. More rain is expected around these areas until tomorrow. Seoul, Daejeon, Daegu, and Gyeongju will start off tomorrow at 10 degrees and Jeju at 18 degrees. Daily highs will rise up to around 18 to 22 degrees across the country. The morning temperature has also recovered to around 10 degrees, but the daily temperature range is as wide as 10 degrees, so you should take care of your health. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.